Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Media Coffee. My name is Nariman. I'm your host. I'm really glad today to be joined by Steve from Benzinga. And Steve, if you can start by introducing yourself, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your work as well.
Sure. Hi, great to meet you. I'm Steve Krause from Benzinga. I'm the head of the Benzinga Pro's breaking news desk. We basically post headlines to our Benzinga Pro platform and all of our syndicated partners. And we're going through hundreds of news items a day, basically, posting breaking news.
Can you just tell me a little bit about Benzinga Pro? Like, what is it? What
Sure.
is it about the platform, and what do you do exactly?
So the idea behind Benzinga Pro is a platform kind of like the Bloomberg Terminal, but for focused on the retail investor. So we try to get information on not just the mega cap companies, but the mid caps, the small caps, the micro caps, and everything in between. We built a brand around cannabis and crypto as well, covering those industries much broader than other media outlets. And we tend to focus on actionable news items. What can move a stock, what is actionable for a company, is it material, and for research purposes as well. We have general things that we report.
Yeah, and where do you get the sources for your news? Like, for example, obviously you've mentioned that you post breaking news and headlines, etc. So what are the sources? Do you depend on social media or press releases from companies, or maybe companies like Cision, for example, that distribute press releases?
Yeah, we have, so within the Benzinga Pro platform, we have a bunch of press release agencies pumping the press releases in, including Cision. And we're going through those and posting what we consider to be actionable or newsworthy items from those. So I would say I'm your core audience. I read, thousands and thousands of press releases a day. We also go through social media. We use scanners, SEC filings, things that are sent to us, analyst notes, kind of anything and everything that could possibly move a stock. An interview on television, a speech from President Biden, or from former President Trump, when he was in office, et cetera. Anything that could possibly move a stock, we're kind of following it and tracking it.
I'm really glad that you said you read thousands and a lot of press releases per
Yeah.
day, because what some of the main questions that we usually get asked by our clients or different people is, are press releases still interesting for journalists? Do journalists still want to receive press release? Sorry, do journalists still want to receive press releases? So what do you think about that?
I think yes and no. I mean, I think they're necessary, obviously, right? But I think that so there's a relationship there between the journalist and the PR agent, right? Obviously, the company wants to get some news out, they're announcing something, and the journalist wants to cover something, but also they don't want to take everything at face value, right, from the company. And so it's a line of what is actually happening in this press release, what are they actually announcing, versus what the company says they're doing, right? And so I tend to prefer press releases that are very straightforward. I understand the need to go with flowery language and to, pump up the company. Totally understand that. That's their job. It's my job to basically pull out all that language and basically say, X company is partnering with Y company. That's what the news is. So anything like that's straightforward makes my job a lot easier and makes me a lot happier.
Would you rather just receive a financial statement, for example, and you read it and make up your own story, etc., or would you rather having that combined with a press release just to make it easier for you to get the important information and then verify it through the financial reports?
Well, I like both, actually. So that's a good question, because yeah, every company is required to disclose through the SEC, right? So technically, they could just disclose through the SEC. They wouldn't need to do a press release. But sometimes press releases are faster than SEC filings. I'd rather have both of them come out, and us to be able to grab whichever one is faster, because some whatever, for whatever reason, some things are faster on some days than other days. So I like both of them. But I do like in the press release when things are kind of summarized, like bullet points at the top are like an A plus. The important financial information, if there's an adjusted EPS figure, if there's revenue, if they're changing their guidance, if there's a buyback, if there's a management change, any and all of those type of important announcements at the top makes our job incredibly easy. And those are the ones that I'm fine, so that I don't have to sift through things. I don't have to, go on a treasure hunt for what the earnings per share were, right?
So you've mentioned having bullet points, for example,
Mhm.
and the press release being straightforward. What are other elements that you see important to be included in financial press release? Do you want to see a quote, for example, picture, video added or attached to it? What are any elements that you think are important?
So it's funny, this might not even need, you would think this what might not need to be said, but it does need to be said that they should be searchable. PDFs are not great. And then I would have to say the biggest pet peeve we have for earnings press releases is when the press release comes out and it says, hey, go to the investor relations website, that's where the earnings are, and they're never there. They're never there. They're never there on time. And so then we're kind of just waiting. I would say it's, and again, I understand why some companies want to do that. They have their own philosophies. I get that. But if you want in my opinion, a company should want to have broad coverage of their news. If you're releasing a press release, you want it covered. That's kind of the point of it. And so, I would say just include it in the press release. Don't link it to the, investor relations website. Just put the whole, earnings report or press release in the actual release itself and not a link, because it saves time, it saves headaches, and it makes it much easier to report on what actual news is.
I'm wondering if you come across any mistakes that companies make when they write a press release for you, specifically for financial journalists or reports. Any mistakes that you came across, obviously aside from the link, and then you don't find it in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
website when you go to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the thing is, it's hard to tell those things in real time, I mean, if they're reporting an incorrect figure, we kind of have to rely, it's a game of trust, right? I'm trusting that the company is releasing correct financial information because they have to report, by law, this financial information. So we kind of take it at face value. And if the company then issues a correction later, then we'll issue a correction. But it's kind of hard to tell some of that stuff in real time. I mean, I think I did see one yesterday that had the year 2023 instead of the year 2024 when it was clearly referring to 2024. That happens sometimes, when you see like little typos and stuff like that. I would say not really errors, but formatting issues, putting the prior year before the current year, that kind of thing. I mean, that kind of thing happens quite often. But no, not a ton of errors necessarily.
What do you think about are there channels of communication between journalists and, from your experience, personal experience, between journalists and comms professionals or PR? Because there's a lot of things that you've mentioned that could easily be fixed if there is a feedback, that was delivered or delivered basically to the PR team. So what do you think about that? Are the two teams are actively basically trying to engage in productive conversation to fix these issues, or do you think there is like a separation between the two fields?
There's a bit of a separation. I will say that we do communicate with individual companies sometimes if they want to release, some news with us on embargo. A lot of companies tend to do that. We like that a lot, when companies will reach out to us, or even press release wires will reach out to us to give us news on embargo, and then we release it at the same time as the press release. That type of communication does breed better press releases, in my opinion. But there is not really an active conversation going on. There should be a more involved. These are kind of things that we just are assuming are never going to change, type of thing, right? We go, oh, that's just how press releases are. But we haven't made it as much of a concerted effort as we probably should to reach out and kind of say, hey, don't write them like this. That's not good.
So, since you're receiving a lot of press releases in a daily basis, do you prefer that comms teams and PR professionals to follow up with you, whether it was an email or a phone call, or do you just want them to send it and you handle everything yourself?
For the most part, send it. I mean, I think being available for follow-ups is always good, especially on something that's big, like a merger or acquisition, or cutting your staff or anything, and any sort of big announcement that's not. And I don't want to say that they're not all big announcements, because but we tend to focus on anything that can financially impact the company. So anything like that, that you'd be available for follow-ups, that's always good. That's always a plus.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Thank you. Then, in terms of the press release itself, from your own personal experience, do you think there is a difference between writing a press release for a private company versus a public company? Is there anything different or differences in general?
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. I mean, private companies just have a much lower bar, right? Because they don't need to disclose nearly as many things. If they're raising equity, they don't really need to disclose, the amount or shareholders and that kind of thing. I think, yeah, definitely writing for a private company is a lot easier, I would say. I mean, I would assume that it's a lot easier because you don't need to include, what companies are affected, the ticker symbols, and all that kind of stuff. You don't need to also make sure that it's published in a public way at the same time as the SEC filing, so that you don't run into SEC rules. I imagine that there's a lot, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine it would be easier to write for a private company than a public company.
Then I wanted to kind of move the conversation to something that's basically been a buzzword. Everyone's talking about it. That's AI.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I read that AI has been used or probably would have an impact in the technical analysis side of trading. So, how is Benzinga using or planning to use AI in the news alert space, for example?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. Yeah, we talk about it every day, in terms of how we can integrate it. We're trying small little things here and there. I mean, there's a big tug of war in the news industry, I think, of people who want news to get automated by AI and people who want it as a more assistive tool, and those people who kind of pull back and forth. We have some AI generated some AI generated content already, for options alerts, for insider trading, for congressional trading, that kind of thing, because those are automated. Those are types of things that, you know, um, they just kind of are what they are. X person bought Y amount of shares. That's not really, you don't really need a person to necessarily write that. That's more just, the AI converting stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're actively looking at it every day in terms of news gathering, in terms of how can it, like I said, I look through thousands and thousands of press releases a day. It would be great if a system could highlight for me certain phrases, certain, certain numbers, and that kind of thing, and pull those up to me so I can address more important, more pressing press releases first. We're looking at that kind of thing. We have a Slack bot that identifies things for us. So if we put something in our chat, then it tells us kind of what tickers are related to it. We're constantly building a list and improving it and removing items from it. So we're using AI right now for more news identification purposes. I would say we're very hesitant on the pro side to use it for generating content, and we're not stepping in that direction anytime soon, I would say.
So this basically brings me to the question that AI is not regulated yet in the US. So it could possibly create misinformation or send
Yeah.
out fake news, etc. So what do you think is Benzinga plan in terms of working around that? And also, with the expansion of AI use, what do you think Benzinga is doing to basically protect obviously their viewers and readers, but also protect Benzinga reputation as as a brand? So yeah.
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, for starters, the AI content that we currently have is marked as AI so that people know, so that this is, generated by, it's called Benzinga Insights is our AI bot that it's generated that way. I think the editorial side uses AI generated images sometimes that are marked clearly as AI generated. But when it comes to the misinformation part, we're very acutely aware of that. We have tried when GPT-3 took off last year, we immediately started to try and get it to summarize financial reports, summarize press releases, give us quick information, and found out very quickly that it was wrong. It lied. It did the hallucinated, as people say. And so we started using the tool actually yesterday to help with 13F filings, but we're checking it rigorously. We're making sure that it is actually accurate as we use it, and we're moving very slowly with it. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of like the Wild West right now, where everyone wants to use it. Everyone thinks it's going to be the next big thing, and it certainly will be great once it's integrated in a proper way. But once the dust settles, I don't want Benzinga to have published a bunch of AI content and have to pull it back or be embarrassed by it. So Pro itself is moving kind of slowly on that front.
So I want to know your opinion on the social meme stocks, because it doesn't really reflect a fundamental stock change, but rather a social media phenomenon. So what do you think? What's your stand on it, and Benzinga as well? How do you report on it, and what do you think about it?
Sure. I will say that this is our wheelhouse. I mean, in 2021, when the meme stocks first took off, AMC, GameStop, Nokia, BlackBerry, all them, we were there at the epicenter of it. As a matter of fact, I think we had one of the pivotal interviews in which these things got kind of pumped and kind of celebrated when GameStop was at $40. We were interviewing people, and we took it very, very seriously. Unlike our competitors, CNBC, Bloomberg, Reuters, they called them meme stocks. They dismissed them as, oh, look at this joke, right? And we, as the platform of the individual investor, as the platform of the retail trader, championed it and basically said, no, this is very, very serious. And we covered them. We created groups of them, and we covered it as diligently as we could. And that's, it became obviously a worldwide sensation. Several movies made out of it. A lot of people made a lot of money. A lot of hedge funds lost a lot of money. And so with its resurgence this week, we're kind of, excited, a little bit nervous, but, yeah, we've been following Roaring Kitty's comeback, for GameStop. We're going to continue to cover this as seriously and diligently as we can. We take it, as an important story in the financial sector, and not as like a joke that's just going to get thrown away, because these are real people trading. There's real money being made. There's life-changing amounts of money being made by very small people who wouldn't have had that before. And is it a little bit of a casino? Sure, but so is crypto, so is AI, so are NFTs. Everything can be spun that way, but the individual investor is very important to us.
This is actually really interesting when I read it, because it brings back the power of social media and how you can't really dismiss it, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
And a group of people can actually change the stock market like drastically, as we've seen previously. Last question, are there any recommendation or any comments that you would like to share with our viewers? So companies that are interested in communicating or having any sort of relations with journalists like yourself in the financial sector.
Certainly, yeah. I would say that, we're very open to communication. We like communication from companies. If you want to get your news covered, and you feel like, maybe it's a little bit smaller piece of news, maybe it won't make as big of a splash, bring it to us. We will treat it as a serious piece of news. It's hard to get covered these days with Apple, Google, Tesla, with all these big companies making big waves every single day. So for a smaller company, it can be very advantageous to come to people like us, because we do get syndicated. We're on Apple News, the Bloomberg Terminal, Yahoo Finance, Market Watch, Business Insider, and then every single U.S. brokerage firm. Our news goes out to all of those people. So you will be seen and syndicated by, to hundreds of thousands, millions of traders. So you can reach out to us at newsdesk-breaking@benzinga.com. Send or me, Steve Krause at benzinga.com, and we can create a connection. I guess the last thing I want to say is, I am one person. I lead an amazing team of people. The Benzinga Pro News Desk is the most professional, most amazing team I've ever worked with in my entire life. So I just want to give them a shout out and tell people that you're in good hands if you come with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I mean, Sijin and Benzinga has been partners for a long time, working together. So it's definitely a relationship that we value a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is the end of basically our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. And again, just follow us on social media and on our podcasting platform. And I'll make sure to share the details that you've just mentioned, and obviously tag you on your Twitter account for anyone that's interested in following you.